Hey all. So, as I said at the end of last season, I did not join the offensive part of war for a full week after last season. We worked hard for top three, and I needed the break. But now we're back testing things, and I brought in Reed today, intentionally not turning the new Defiance tactic on, because I'm testing out the overhauled Path 8, which has these rich get richer nodes, and so I want to be able to use the Odin pre-fights. So we will be gaining these Furies very quickly, which are supposed to increase our attack by 15% each. So see, our light attacks there are 783 with only a couple Furies. Let's watch these closely. They're now at 770, and notice that we now have extra debuffs on the opponent as well. And they seem to have gone back up a little bit, back up to 780. This is so odd because to me it kind of looks like our attack is going up based on the debuffs we're placing on the opponent per Reed's kit. But if anything, it almost looks like it's going down according to the Furies. I'm not sure exactly what's happening on that node, but I don't think it's what's supposed to be happening. But the good news is that Apocalypse wasn't gaining all those Furies, and something tells me that they would have worked perfectly for him. So, better us and having a longer fight than him, but I'm also very glad that I brought She-Hulk for the Power Stings, because if Legacy had not been running the Recoil Tree Masteries in off-season, that could have been a pretty long fight, and the big bursts of damage from Power Sting would have ended up really, really helping. So same basic idea on Doom. It also has the Rich Get Richer Fury node. And so we're going to watch our damage carefully again. So 713 with a couple Furies on our light non-critical hits. 713. We were doing slightly more while he was still stunned. But that's because our attack goes up when there are more debuffs on the opponent, right? So let's watch this next one. I mean, now there are more debuffs on the opponent because we're ramping. We're watching for light attack crits again. Or non-crits. So now they are up to 807, but again, that doesn't seem to be because the Furies are ramping up. It just seems to be because Reed is ramping up, and there are more debuffs on Doom. So something is not right there. I don't know if those Furies are just listed as like 0 potency when they apply to us, but that's not how I expected that to go. Anyway, on to the next. So this is thing on node 26, the Defective Defense Miniboss, which places disorients whenever you block. So don't block. Now She-Hulk is one of the best possible counters to Thing, but she doesn't really have a way to deal with the disorient. And also you're going to notice that we can't really stun here, which also makes it harder to land our heavies. Now, that was absolutely stupid. I didn't take my normal precautions for making sure that I was in a good place for a war fight since this was off-season, and I got really distracted there completely via my own fault. But you'll notice that we are, other than that, maintaining pretty good control here. It's not that hard to keep the slow up. It's pretty easy to do these wake-up intercepts, stay on top of him. He'll throw and refresh the heavies when he feels like it, but it also isn't a big deal because we're landing all of these power stings by applying debuffs. And we would be applying more if we were freely stunning, but it's not the end of the world. The double proc of the slow on every heavy and the exhaustions off the special one are enough. So here they fall off. Again, not the end of the world, because She-Hulk wouldn't be timing out to this even without the power stings. But with the power stings, we are just not going to focus on the Furies. Because without the ability to block and stun him, we just don't have the normal tempo that we would have in this matchup. So relying on the power stings, staying on top of our stand-up intercepts or our wake-up intercepts, but Honestly, this fight would be doable without them. You would probably just have to do a little bit more block baiting and a little bit more intercepting. Not ideal, but still doable. So notice that we are proccing protection now with these 7 Furies up. See, there it is again. At this point, what I should have done is I actually should have let the Furies fall off. Because now basically every time we crit, protection's going to come back. Sorry, I guess not on our lights, but on our heavies and our special ones, which are kind of important to the rhythm of this fight, because that's what gives us our power stings. It is coming up. There it is again. Not ideal, but if we can get him to throw that special one, the power stings will finish this. So here I have the bright idea of baiting out a special by throwing a heavy too far away. No, I'm entirely kidding. That was a miscalculation. But it did finish the fight. So not my cleanest gameplay, but a really, really solid counter there. You don't have to worry about the disorient immunity, because as long as you're not trying to parry, that's really the important part. An occasional blocked hit isn't going to matter. Just don't take combos on block, rely on She-Hulk's kit to get it down. So now we're on to the second half of Path 8. This is the more traditional rich get richer, where they just gain power. Now, there may be a few times when Sersi does have more buffs than us. Not a big deal, because Reed will be blunting her power gain through the Petrify, but we will be gaining a ton of power for a lot of this fight thanks to the Odin pre-fights. At this point, cross-fights. So this should be a really simple fight. Reed doesn't really have a way to get around glancing unless he gets a stagger up before it triggers, but that doesn't matter because so much of his kit relies instead on just knocking the opponent down, and as you'll see here, because my parries aren't landing, I can safely knock her down just with a heavy counter. And so as soon as I tested that and the heavy landed, I was like, okay, this is the safest fight in the world. I just need to make sure I don't get hit by specials. There is going to be one spot later where I get so used to the parries not landing, because there's basically an inverted insult to injury node on this, where every buff on her is reducing our ability accuracy. That's the problem with the parries. See, right there, I get so shocked that the stun actually landed that I go for the heavy late. So in a real war fight, hopefully I would have... I think the real goal is just play this as though you don't have access to the parry mastery at all. Bait the heavies, knock her down that way. You'll pause your debuffs. You will be doing plenty of damage. Because this isn't recoil tree masteries, this is just reversal of willpower. And even if the defender, is not running willpower, you can still reverse the healing that Sersi has. On top of that, with this team, you have access to the power stings. You're constantly gaining power. She almost never is. It's a beautiful matchup. So even better is this Dragon Man here, because he will be trying to gain power even when Rich Get Richer is benefiting us. Which at the beginning means when we haven't stunned him recently, he will be gaining a small trickle of power, but only 60% of what he normally would, thanks to the Petrify. But as we ramp up, which remember we're going to do more quickly because we'll be gaining power constantly, we will even reverse that power gain, and it just completely removes the threat of anything in Dragon Man's kit. See, we're only 10 hits in and we're throwing our first special 2 without an advanced power boost. This team I really think can work very nicely for a lot of matchups on this lane. It'll depend war to war, but... And obviously I would prefer to heal up in between these. I would do more dueling. I don't like being below 50% health, but all 4 of these fights with Reed have just felt really, really safe. And the power stings just do so much damage for us. Right here, I took a small risk, stepped back into the special one just to get the extra pre-fights. That was purely a matter of practice. It's not like I need them for a future fight, but it was kind of nice to do that. So then we're heading on to this Groot. I don't think that this was an intentional placement. Like, 4 Loki definitely has some defenders in classic or interesting spots. I think Liza was just having fun with the fact that she has a rank 3 Groot. But that also let me have fun with She-Hulk here because more traditional damage over time options might run into the fact that Groot reduces debuff duration. She-Hulk has power stings. So we're not going to be doing a whole lot on the actual hits themselves. Matter of fact, I think that 1900 might already be the cap. No, I'm sorry, that 27 probably is those two crits. Yeah, because there's another 2731, and that one wasn't on a special. So we've already found the cap. But even if Liza were not running the recoil tree, like, look at how much that power sting did. This fight would be very, very safe and not that slow just because of those power stings scaling with She-Hulk's Furies, continuing to get stronger and stronger as we go. If I were actually taking this in war, I also would have dueled to see if I could get the heavy counter, because even though we don't need to slow Groot, more heavies means more slows, which means more debuffs, which means more power stings. So on the off chance we see someone try that placement for real, that would be very simple. So I was also planning on taking that Immortal Hulk back there, but honestly, I think it's better to just get this video out now. It would look very similar to the Groot fight. The plan there was entirely use power stings to get around I-Hulk's healing, and if we don't, use the fact that She-Hulk lines up really well against him anyway. So, there you have Offseason. Two science attackers who can use the Defiance tactic, intentionally not using them. I don't know how common that's going to be this season, but I definitely think that we will be doing that at least a few times. It's probably going to be something that we think about on a lane-by-lane basis, because sometimes turning off, access to Nullify, making a hard counter to nodes like Power Snack or Buffet, or just turning off Mystic Dispersion is going to be really helpful. But sometimes access to pre-fights like this are that much better. So, like I said, I think it's going to be a play-it-by-ear situation. And I'm very glad that I got this testing in. It was a good lane with a lot of difficult defenders, so thank you to 4Loki for actually placing a full map. Anyway, I will be traveling through a lot of this week, so I do intend to record some more off-season fights, but those may not go up until the season has actually started. Hoping to have some other smaller videos released this week, and I do hope to be streaming a bit while I travel. So I will catch y'all then, and until then, thanks for watching, and take care.